All right, enough of these teams that are no longer in the season. It's time to preview the grand final. We saw these teams play each other not even really 3 weeks ago. So in the qualifying final, as you said off the top, JB, the Cats won that one pretty comfortably. And it was a coaching masterclass from Chris Scott, really. They looked at the prime movers of Brisbane and said, we're going to clamp down on them and play the game how we want to play the game. So Oisin Mullen and Mark O'Connor played some excellent defensive roles. You had Ollie Dempsey playing the wings beautifully. It was just classic Geelong. We'll beat you how we want to beat you. So scores from back half have been huge in these clashes over the last, well, at least over this year. Is that somewhere where we can see this going back the other way again?
Yeah, well, it's been one of the simple stats for Geelong, especially this year. If the opposition can score more than 40 points from the back half, Geelong are 2 wins and 5 losses. If the team doesn't score 40 points from back half chains, Geelong 17 wins and 1 loss. So in the last game they played, in the 3 games they played this year, round 3 the Lions won, they scored 52 points from back half end-to-end chains. Round 15 Lions won, they scored 59 points from back half chains. Qualifying final, I know it was sort of a smashing, it wasn't close, but Brisbane scored 40 back half points, which is, you just need one more point and you sort of, you help your winning, help your winning record. So that's one thing that we know, that if you want to beat Geelong, you've got to almost beat them from end-to-end football. We just spoke about Brisbane being beaten Collingwood by the forward half game and starting a lot of chains in the forward half. You're not going to get that against Geelong. You're not going to get a lot of stoppages. You're not going to get Geelong turning the ball over a lot in their back half. So you're probably going to have to beat them in the end-to-end game. And that's just been Geelong's MO all year. They've conceded 35 points from back half this year, which is the most of any team in the finals. So it was the 7th most of any team, but it's the only way you can get Geelong this year is if you can actually open them up. We spoke about if you go from back 50 to forward 50, you've got a more open forward line and a more chance to score. So they're the more valuable inside 50s that you can get from deeper in the field.
Yep.
That's going to be the key to Brisbane. How well can you move the ball against Geelong?
So a couple of Fridays ago, Brisbane couldn't do that. They didn't get their uncontested mark, their short kick game going, and they couldn't pick apart Geelong and move the ball successfully to score from back half. Yeah. It just didn't work for them. So is that something that you think Chris Fagan will be looking at and saying, hey, we need to really generate things to be on our terms? We want to be doing like what we did against the Pies. We want to be doing kick, mark, goal.
100%, and that's exactly what Jared sort of said earlier about why, every team knows how Brisbane wants to play. Brisbane know what they do best as well. So they will be looking at it and going, how do we get back into, how do we get those uncontested marks? The one thing you want to watch out for is they want to take a lot of uncontested marks, and I sort of gave you the win-loss record when they take over the 100. But you don't want the first half to be just a whole heap of uncontested marks in the back half. You still need to be going into your forward half with those marks. So one thing I'd be looking for Brisbane is if they do at halftime have sort of 60 uncontested marks for the first half, you think that's a high number, it's probably worth looking at have at least 20 or 30% been in the forward half, because any lower percentage just means they're probably gone a bit too negative, because you can see the same thing. We need to chip it around, we need to take marks, but you can get obsessed with that and just trying to find marks rather than actually trying to take territory. So I think they're a good enough team not to confuse themselves with that sort of strategy. But as I spoke about it, over the last 2 years, Brisbane's kick and mark game is how they won games. I think that's what they're going to concentrate again on Saturday.
It seems pretty easy and obvious, but in that qualifying final as well, Geelong's pressure was through the roof as well, so they really denied Brisbane at the stoppage.
Yep.
So it sounds simple, but Geelong's pressure needs to at least match what they were able to do a few weeks ago, because if it's not, Brisbane do have the game to cut Geelong up, maybe not significantly, but do remember, Geelong, yes, they won the qualifying final. Brisbane have beaten Geelong this year.
Yes,
so they've got a game to do it.
There will be some selection headaches as well for this game. So obviously Jared Berry came off for the Lions with that popped shoulder. He popped that in round 23 and has sort of come back from that to kind of compete in the final series.
He'll play this week.
But that's a second straight one. I mean, this is a risk that you're taking. Lachie Neale's the other one. He did his calf in that qualifying final, and he now thinks he wants to be coming back for the grand final. He's made a lot of noise.
There's 2 people in Australia that want Lachie Neale to play. Lachie Neale and Chris Scott. They're the 2. There's no way.
He keeps saying it's a possibility. I cannot fathom how this is a possibility. You've got the blueprint. Was Collingwood last week? You had Pendlebury complaining about his calf in the pre-game warm-up. You had Jeremy Howe coming back from his injury. You had Myercheck with his toe injury and was ineffective. Sam Reid a few years ago was another kind of roll the dice in the grand final and hope it comes off, and it didn't come off for the Swans.
It's fraught with so much danger.
It's just not worth the risk,
especially with a muscle injury as well. So with Berry,
soft tissue, the old man injury.
Yeah.
It's just it is danger, danger.
When does it actually work for a club in a grand final, taking someone in with a soft tissue?
Christian, you're very silent during all this. Are you saying you'd risk him?
No, I'm not. I'm just listening intently. But the one that you're sort of saying about, who has risked it and sort of won a grand final, we wouldn't know. Because you only hear about the ones that break
So
down.
there's going to be Geelong players that are playing through niggles as well.
Jeremy
That's the
McGovern
reality.
with broken ribs, but that's not a calf injury.
Calves are different. Muscle injuries are different. Like, you can train all you want, but there's no way he'll be 100%, and there's no way Chris Vega will risk him. And if he does,
Who would be unlucky if
Chris
that's the
got to
case?
be laughing. In what way?
From the Lions, who would go
side.
out? Yeah.
Well, who came in? Was it Bruce Revere?
Yeah, so he was the sub last week and the week before.
Yeah, you'd rather a 100% fit fringe player than a half.
I thought Bruce Reville was very good too when he did come on, and he came on relatively early. I think he had 10 disposals, 9 of those were effective, and you could tell that they were effective. He had a couple of really nice inside 50s, was hitting targets when he needed to, was in the right positions, showed composure. I would this sounds weird to say. I would much rather have a fully fit Bruce Reville coming on as a sub than Lachie Neale with an injury cloud.
100%.
Does that sound weird?
No, it's
people are going to
really-
roast me
it's
for
right,
that. But
though. They're not going to roast you. You can't play an injured player with
that's-
muscle injury in a grand final.
Well, that's why I find it. I sort of see it as being really, really selfish in terms of if Neale, if he tries to get up and try to play in their game, because
you can understand.
I've said this on the
it's the
podcast
biggest
as well.
game
Yeah,
of the
but
year,
it's a team sport. It's the same as Pendlebury. Pendlebury, if you knew anything was wrong 5 minutes before the game, don't sort of go in and go, I'm going to be inspirational. I'm going to go really gutsy and I want to, for the importance of my team, I'm going to go out there and play. No, for the importance of your team, you should let a fit player come in and take your
Simon
spot.
Prestigiacomo.
It's the same thing. Looking at Lachie Neale, it's like, well, yeah, he's sort of saying all the noise that he's making Saturday night that he will play. And I'm like, geez, I know you want to play.
Yeah.
But are you going to be better than? Are you going to be better than?
Yeah, this is the thing. In his head, he might know he's definitely not playing.
He's just going to throw it out
This
there.
is us talking
Chris
about
Scott's
it.
plan for him.
Yeah, exactly right. So
I don't know. And then on the other side, obviously, Tom Stewart's going to be the hard luck story for the Cats. So 12 days mandatory out for that concussion protocol that the AFL has in place, that tackle from Mabior Chol. Chol's been given 3 weeks as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But he is going to be a big, big piece that's missing from that Geelong side.
Yeah, he will be. And it's a massive loss because he's such a star player. You can't replace the Tom Stewart with a Tom Stewart, but you actually can replace the role. So you can, it's easy to put Mark Blicavs back. He can play anywhere. You can put Reece Stanley into a ruck. If you don't bring Stanley in, I know you had a call before. You have an idea of a player that might come in to replace Stewart. But you could also just go interchange Blicavs and DeConing from back to right. So you can feel the Tom Stewart role, even though it's not a Tom Stewart player.
Not going to be to the same effect.
One thing that Chris Scott's done really, really well with all of his players is they're all sort of comfortable playing in dual position. So he's got you think of everyone on that list and they've all sort of almost played a secondary position across their career. But I look at, and so their players are very adaptable and move around, but I think it's just too much change to bring in Stanley into this game to replace Tom Stewart, because you're bringing Stanley into the ruck, you're telling Blicavs to get out of the ruck, and then you've got to go play behind the ball, and then Blicavs sort of will go behind the ball, but he won't actually play on, he won't actually do Tom Stewart's role. Zach Guthrie will probably do the Tom Stewart role. The last game they played, Zach Guthrie spent 80 minutes on Charlie Cameron. That was in last year's final.
Yep.
Last time they played this year. Zach Guthrie had Charlie Cameron, so you've got to find someone to match up on Charlie Cameron now. And is that Blicavs goes to Cameron and Guthrie? It's just too many changes. So I think a nice simple one is Jed Buse, who did play against Charlie Cameron in last year's preliminary final, comes in, plays on Charlie Cameron. Zach Guthrie goes into Tom Stewart's role, and the midfield just stays as it was on the weekend.
The Cats will know how hampered Jack Henry will be by his ankle injury as well, and that could dictate what type of changes they do make as well.
Do you stick with what you know in terms of sending O'Shin Mullen to Hugh McCluggage?
Yeah, this is interesting. I think you try it at the start, but if Brisbane have the ace up their sleeve and they do something different to combat that matchup that they probably know is coming, then you can...
McCluggage took it personally after that game. I spoke to him after the Suns win, and he said he was really down about it, just made All-Australian.
I made a note about it of, Hugh McCluggage's bounce back in the final. So after 14 touches against O'Shin Mullen, it was 33 and 37 the next two games. He had 4 kicks week 1, 11 and 20 the next two, 93 metres gain the first week, 381 and 450. 3 clearances the first week, 10 and 10 in the last 2 weeks.
He's bounced back really well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Are you doing the same matchup?
Yeah, I probably would.
I think you try it initially.
You've got to. Yeah. You've got to. And then you also... You do it, but to your point of the Brisbane have an ace up their sleeve.
They're going
Brisbane
to try something different. Yeah,
but that's almost like a win for Chris Scott as well. It's like, well,
they're
now
changing what they would normally do.
So you're going, okay, now they've got to concentrate on one of our taggers. So you're sort of, you're taking a little bit.
Really quickly on the Tom Stewart thing, what have the Cats been like with him in the side this year versus without? Because we've got a bit of a sample size of both.
Yeah, not a massive loss in terms of the numbers. So they're 3 and 2 without him this year. 16-4 when he plays, 3-2 without him, so just over 50%.
Told you they can fill the role.
Points conceded, it's an extra 7 points or 6.5 points per game when he hasn't played this
So he's worth
year,
a goal
so,
a game, and
yeah.
and that. I mean, 16-4 versus 3-2. I mean, yeah.
There's a little bit in, yeah, probably a little bit in it.
A bit in there. Earlier in the year, we talked about the runway, so the 6 weeks of form running into finals and how teams stack up in terms of the premiership standards. Of course, the premiership standards, the 5 stats that 100% of the last 10 premiers have ranked top 6 in, if you can get your head around that. I thought we'd take a look at the last 6 weeks, inclusive of finals, coming into this match, just to see how the Lions and the Cats are tracking. Is there one team that, by the numbers and by the table and by the stats, looks more like winning this premiership?
Yeah, Geelong have clearly had the better form, and whether that's been a little bit of an easier draw at the end of the home and away season, don't know. But now, as we said, you just look at it, the form coming into the grand final is clearly pointing, leaning Geelong's way. So points for, they've averaged 110 points per game, which is number 1 across the last 6 weeks. Brisbane are 8th for 92 points per game. Points conceded, Geelong second fewest, Brisbane third fewest. So defensively, they're pretty even. Points from turnover, Geelong are almost at 70 points per turnover from the last 6 weeks. Brisbane are at 54. Points from, or inside 50 differential, Geelong's number 1 again, plus 10.6. Brisbane are plus 4.56. Time in forward half, Geelong's dominating territory. Brisbane's 8th in that time.
They're number 1 in time in forward half?
Yep. And moving the ball from end to end, Geelong's been the second best team at moving the ball, and Brisbane's been third best. So a little bit of, the ball movement stuff, Brisbane's probably competed okay with Geelong, but in terms of the scores from turnover, the inside 50 stuff, the defensive stuff, it's all leaning in towards Geelong's favour, and that's probably from a personal point of view, probably glad that Collingwood didn't make the grand final, because they were the ones that were really going to stuff up the runway stat that we said that if you have to have really good form coming into finals to make a grand final, and you were right, probably Collingwood's last 6 or 7 weeks was probably their worst form of the year. Lucky they missed out. But yeah, for Geelong and Brisbane, it's clearly stacking into Geelong's favour in the last 6 weeks.
It's championed out as perfect grand final matchup, because Brisbane and Geelong were the two teams going into finals that did rank top 6 in all 5 of those key premiership matches.
Along with the Bulldogs, who I think didn't even make finals. But it's also, I think it's just a grand final for football, and I've said this on the podcast before, number 1 kicking team and the second number, for kicking team, for using the foot. So actual kicking the ball in football, it actually gets you to grand final.
At their best, these are the 2 best teams in the competition, so we got a good matchup.
These 2 coaches have been in their positions for a while. Maybe just head-to-head over the last 4 seasons. What are some sort of things that we've noticed from clashes between these 2 sides in that time?
Yeah, they really do get in each other's heads. Had a few really wet games as well in there, but in terms of the last 4 seasons, Geelong against Brisbane. So Geelong's had 55 inside 50s per game against the Lions. No other teams manage that much. So Geelong know how to get the ball forward and beat sort of Lions midfield defence, if you like. But they only score a goal from 19.9% entries, which ranked last. So Brisbane, again, Chris Vay's looking at it going, geez, Geelong are really good at getting the ball inside 50. We need to be on defensively inside out. In our back 6 needs to be defending really deep and strongly, and they do that. And then going the other way, though, Geelong only lets the Lions score from 36% of entries, which is the Lions' lowest percentage against any team. So Geelong's worst scoring result is against Brisbane over the last 4 years, and Brisbane's worst scoring result is against Geelong over the last 4 years. But you look at the last 10 games that they've played, 8 of the past 10 have gone the way of the team that wins territory, and 7 of the past 10 have gone the way of the team that won the contested possessions. So we know these 2 teams defend and sort of know what each other want to do at the bookends. It's just whoever can get their hands on the ball more and sort of in more valuable positions. But time in possession is another one that's a probably underrated stat. We've sort of spoke about a few underrated stats on the podcast before, but time in possession is just how long you've had the ball for. Brisbane is number 1 for time in possession this year, and the comp average across the game is a team will have possession of the ball, so the ball in their hands or on their foot, for 36 minutes and 22 seconds per game. Geelong this year, if they've had the ball for more than that, for less than that, they're 4 wins and 5 losses, and one win and 6 losses when they've had the ball for less than 35 minutes. So Brisbane just got to get the ball, control the footy. As I said, don't want to get caught controlling the footy in your back half doing nothing with it, but Brisbane have never seemed to have that problem. It's not a stat I don't think you can find easily on a box score, but it's just one thing you'd be watching for the grand final. Who has the ball the longest usually wins between these 2 teams.
JB, a tip and a margin for the grand final, please.
Well, geez, I'll stick with the Cats and I'll just say 10 points, because it's pretty safe. I can see it being more than that, and I can see it Brisbane winning as well.
Sit on the fence more, why don't you?
Well, I just gave you a tip and a margin. That's
But I can see this, and I can see that.
I'm not tipping a draw.
Christian, has anything what we've talked about from the Lions' perspective swayed you into potentially tipping them this week?
No, I'm not tipping them, but I'm not. I don't look at them and go, they've no chance of winning. If they play at their best, they beat Geelong.
Fence sitter.
No, I don't think I'm sitting on the fence. I'll give you a better tip than more than 10 points. So,
there you go.
Close grand final, very, very rare. So I think even my tip of, I've got Geelong at 26 points, and even that seems a bit closer than most grand finals. But that doesn't mean I think Geelong's a 4-goal better team. You know, if this game was played 10 times, I think they both have a chance to win. But looking at, recent form, and just the ability to score 4 or 5 quick goals in a row might really matter in this game. I just think Geelong got a better chance of doing that.
I usually do tip the reverse result as well. Not only in finals, but like during seasons as well. If one double-up game went this way, I'll actually tip it the other way.
Well, I think
the team that lost needs to change something.
Well, it's much easier to review a loss, I think, than it is to review a win.
Geelong's going to do what they did last time because they know it works. So Brisbane know what Geelong's going to do.
A bit of psychology going on.
The way it is.
All the things that you've sort of said in this podcast, Christian, has me thinking that maybe Brisbane can do it. And you talk about fence sitting, but here we go. Brisbane by like less than a kick or Geelong by 30 plus. That's kind of where I'm leaning. That's kind of where I'm leaning.
You got splinters on the bum as much as I do.
I think I am going to go I think the Cats, but I'm going to tip on the record Brisbane by 4 points.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they'll...
Best on?
Best on will be Hugh McCluggage. Who's it a big week for, JB?
I'm going Cam Rayner. He copped a lot of attention in the qualifying final from Mark O'Connor. I think that is a matchup that's going to happen again from the outset. And he's the X-factor player. He's a game that he doesn't need a big game to actually hurt you. He just needs big moments. He did that on the weekend as well with a few goals. He kicked a couple against Geelong after a really quiet first half. He can still have an impact. So it's a big week for him. They're going to plan. They're going to know what's coming with Mark O'Connor probably going to him, I suspect. But I'm interested to see what Cam Rayner does to sort of negate that.
Who's it a big week for, Christian?
Probably a little bit of low-hanging fruit, but Max Holmes, I think, clearly obviously missed out on the 2022 grand final with a hamstring injury. He gets his chance to sort of redeem himself, but it's sort of a big week for him in terms of, I don't know, can't put myself in his shoes, but you don't want to play the game in your head, and I feel like he'd be one of the more nervous Geelong players just because he sort of watched one from the sidelines and wasn't being able to get involved. He's probably sitting there going, well, you know, when I get out there, I'm going to do this and do this. You sort of don't want to play the game before it's actually started. I'll throw in Oscar McInerney a little bit like that as well for obviously having to sit on the sidelines last year and watching. Just think it's harder for Oscar McInerney because sort of playing this sort of nothing role. He's sort of he's only playing half of his game in his actual role. So I don't know how much impact he's going to have, whereas Max Holmes could be a match winner for Geelong, so I think a big week for him.
I can't remember, did Dunkley put time into anyone when they played a couple of weeks ago in terms of a tag? Because who would you try and stop, Bailey Smith or Max Holmes?
Oh, it's a great question.
Dangerfield's the one. Dangerfield's his most natural matchup at a
in terms of big body,
Yeah, speed I reckon. Well. I mean, you're not getting away.
But Danger can go to the goal square. I'm not sure Dunkley would be able to do that.
Yeah, and I don't think Dunkley can run on the outside with Holmes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's actually the go-to matchup for Dunkley.
It's a big week for is Hugh McCluggage. I mean, we talked about it, but he was smacked by O'Shane Mullen a few weeks ago. Christian, you read out the numbers, but they were pretty stark. 14 disposals, 4 kicks, 3 clearances compared to what he's had in the last couple of weeks. He'll be smarting, so he'll be wanting to do that. He'll be wanting to show and get possessions and disposals early to show that he's not going to be hampered twice in 3 weeks by the same guy. So I think it's going to be a really big week for him.